we've been working with schools for, Charanga's been working with schools for 20 plus years. And we've been trying to work on something basically to make it easier to do music technology and kind of create music in schools. And it comes from years and years of just realizing that all of the music tech that's out there isn't really fit for purpose, just doesn't really work properly in terms of giving students, young people, something they can use at home. So giving them access to music making outside of school. And B, in terms of something that actually works for teachers and isn't a massive faff where you don't have to install everything. There isn't loads of kind of complicated IT. And just because I've been talking to teachers for years, and the idea of installing software in a school and updating it and having all the students' work saved on a computer, the hassle and the faff of all of that means even when you've got a specialist teacher who's a music producer, who's an expert in hip hop, who's this, that, and the other, I was finding that even those teachers were banging their head on the wall and saying, we can't do it. It doesn't work. And ultimately for me, if we actually want all of our young people to be creating tracks, making beats, producing their own songs, doing whatever, then actually even teachers who are non-specialists need to be able to support this sort of thing. So we basically have created a new piece of music software specifically for education. So we've made the whole thing just for use in schools, for use by students and young people. And the idea is it's hopefully, the easiest platform to use for young people. And it's got a load of cool stuff that makes life easy if you're a teacher as well, just in terms of being able to listen to their tracks, give feedback, share projects and do all that kind of stuff. What I'll do, if we go the main menu, the sort of homepage of secondary, you can see in secondary, we've got loads of resources. So there's loads of sort of supporting resources you can use with groups. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But if I actually load up the app, the sort of first thing to point out with this is that we wanted to go right back to basics in terms of software. And one thing in particular that used to drive me mad when I was trying to teach a group of year sevens was just having to shout out which button was which and what did what. And so little things like we've labeled the play button with the word play. We've labeled the stop button with the word stop. And so, for example, a DAW music software that I was having to use a lot with young people, it didn't have a stop button. You had to know that you had to press the play button again to make it stop. And the play button just had that symbol of a triangle. And that was fine if you're a music producer or if you've got a background in this stuff. But I was working with lots of quite challenging year sevens, year eights, working with nurture groups, working in pupil referral units, all those type of settings that I'm sure we're all kind of used to. And I would find that I would spend big chunks of every lesson shouting out, no, triangle means play. Click on the triangle. And things like the loop, turning on a loop. Now, I might know that symbol there means a loop, but the group didn't know that. And so I'd be saying, right, now click on the one next to the triangle. And it just occurred to us, well, actually, why don't we just put all the words on there so everyone can see what all those buttons do? And if you look at all the other music software that's out there, nobody does that. And it's because really they're all trying to make something that looks really kind of flashy for bedroom producers who want to pay £400 for the latest version of whatever professional software it is. But we don't really care about the kind of hipster bedroom producer crew. We're actually making something specifically for teachers and for students. So we thought, well, actually, if we put all the words on there, it's going to make it dead easy. It's going to save you having to explain everything every time you want to make a track. Same kind of thing. If I create a drum track and I'm going to create a clip and open it up, you can see, so this is where we're going to program beats. Say if I want to program a beat, one thing that I like to do quite a lot is say, teach a basic hip hop beat to a group. And what I was finding, and this was across all the different types of music software. So I've released albums with all of the kind of major platforms, all the major bits of software I've used. And what I found when I was teaching with any of them is that I'd be trying to explain a beat pattern to a group. And I'd be saying, okay, well, let's find the kick drum. Well, the kick drum wouldn't have the word kick next to it. So they'd have to know what it sounded like to be able to find it. Same with the snare drum. It wouldn't have the word snare. Maybe if you're lucky, you'd get a picture of a snare drum. But so we've labeled those. The next thing would be the beats in the bar. So at the top, we've labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I can say, right, let's put a kick drum on beat 1. Let's put a snare drum on beat 2, kick on beat 3, snare on beat 4. So you can see really quickly, I'm able to explain this beat pattern because I've got those beats numbered at the top and I've got the names of the drums on the side. Again, if I want to loop it up, right, we're going to click on loop. That's labeled loop. And now if I play, really quickly, we're up and running making a beat. I can say the same thing. Right, let's add a hi-hat on every beat and every and in between the beats. It's really quick and easy to start, getting up and running, making a beat. And for me, if you don't grab students in the first lesson with this stuff, it's really hard to keep them engaged. This was the thing I found. If you have a couple of lessons faffing around, showing them where the loop is and how to load up this thing and where to even find the sounds, if it's taken you 2 lessons to get that far, then by the time you're there, you've already lost half the group. And especially in terms of confidence, I'd say like getting more female producers is one thing I'm really trying to encourage teachers to kind of make a priority. I'd find loads of groups I'd be working with some of the traditional software. You'd get big chunks of the female students saying, oh, this is too complicated. I can't do this. This isn't for me. I'm not a producer. And it wasn't because they didn't have the ability to do it. It's just because the whole thing's built with loads of jargon. It's made to look really complicated. And actually, now that I'm able to get people up and running, making beats quickly, they're buying into it. They're kind of straight away finding, oh, actually, this isn't as complicated as I thought it was. So although it is a software design thing, it's also like a PHSE self-confidence, self-esteem thing of feeling like I can actually do this. I've got the ability to do this. Similar sort of thing on the kind of music theory side. If we load up this sound bank, is like a collection of all the different instruments you might want. So I can show you, you've got all your kind of guitars, keyboards, orchestral sounds, synthesizers, everything you might want. If I just load up an electric piano. Another big barrier to students getting involved with music projects I always found was music theory. And so I say especially kids coming in year 7, year 8, the kind of beginning of Key Stage 3, I would find that most schools I go to, the students who are being sort of headhunted for GCSE are the ones who've already got some music theory experience. They've already had some private tuition. They're already probably playing an instrument. And it's because they've internalized that bit of theory already, they're then sort of able to carry on and compose. And we realized, well, actually, if we add the ability to highlight a musical key, say let's choose C minor. If I load this up now, you can see the piano roll that we used to input notes. But now we've just got these dots highlighting the notes of C minor. So say I start adding some notes. Imagine I'm saying to the group, we're going to start with the red dot. We're going to use these blue dots to create melodies. What it means is, in practice, I've now got even my sort of nurture groups, even my more sort of challenging circumstances groups, creating melodies, creating chords and bass lines in a musical key. And this isn't even just from year 7. I just had a meeting yesterday with a pilot project with a load of primary schools in Devon. And I've got teachers in year 5 and 6 creating whole tracks this way with entire schools worth of children in primary school. And I think in Lancashire, we're going to be seeing the same thing, that I think we're going to have a lot of primaries in Lancashire learning the basics of how to use this stuff because we've made it so accessible. And that means you're actually going to get students arriving in year 7 already feeling confident with things like creating melody, creating drum beat, which is, I think, going forward is going to be a big new route into GCSE music for a lot of students in Lancashire, or at least that's what I'm hoping. So say here, you can kind of be creating a melody that's in a key, but what I've been doing quite a lot of my groups is skip a note, add a note, skip a note, add a note, is you can use this same framework to start creating chords. The same thing again here, skip a note, add a note. So you can see quite quickly, just using that visual guide, we're getting something which sounds harmonically, in a key. Again, if we want to then add a bass line to that, we're going to add a subtract synth and another clip. You can see here, we've got all of the notes highlighted still. If I come down a bit lower, let's do a bass line here, maybe focusing on the root note, bringing in a couple of other notes from the scale. Let's have a listen to that. I don't think I'm going to be winning any Grammys for it, but you can see the basic point that I've got some chords, a melody, and I've got a bass line that's in the same key. And what's great is, kids at year 5, year 6 are grasping this. They're already getting on top of the idea of, oh, okay, that's what a key is. It's this collection of notes that I use. Another thing teachers are really enjoying, say I want to transpose this bass line. I've got these octave buttons here, so let's take it down an octave. You can see there it's moved down. Again, one of my pet hates from teaching whole class stuff is when you've got a group and they've tried to transpose their bass line down an octave and they've got it nearly an octave. It's one semitone out and it's all clashy. So things like that. Also, say the legato button, we've added that. So if you want to extend the notes out easily, just little things that we know students and teachers do all the time. So you can kind of easily move things around. It's also really nice that you can use that for voice leading stuff as well, if you want to get into chord progressions and making sure the voice leading flows nicely. So loads of stuff there that just really kind of opens up the conversations around music theory and composition, even for students who historically might not have gotten to take part in that stuff. So that's some of the fun stuff there. I'll show you, this is another thing which is really cool. The audio packs and sort of loops and samples and stuff. We've obviously got loads of packs from professional producers. 50% of that is from female and non-binary producers, which we really wanted to make a kind of priority of. Again, just to sort of signpost to young women, to non-binary producers coming through schools. Actually, you're included in this, even from the level of the software design. And we've got some really cool competitions and stuff coming up with that. Especially, we've got all these percussion loops from Evelyn Glennie, which is a bit of a coup. And kind of amazing to have her involved and have those there is something that people can play with. And actually, this is cool. This pack here from Snarl, he's actually a former student who was our producer of the year when he was in year 7 back, I think it was about 5 years ago. And he's now doing remixes for Sony and people in the music industry. And he made a sample pack for us. And the idea for that is to show young people using YuStudio that it's actually a progression route. That you can actually sort of use the software, create stuff, but there's actually a way that you can then be featured in it and kind of, see yourself going from the user to someone who can contribute packs and sounds and things there. One thing I really love is this collection of acapellas. You've got all these acapellas that you can just drag and drop on your track, which young people have been absolutely loving this. Just, being able to hear a professional vocalist on their track. Say if I'll drag and drop one of these in here. So here we go. Let's put a grime acapella on top of the beat that we've just made. Right, so there we go. You can see that's there. So you can hear we've got a professional rapper on top of the track. And I'm just going to take the tempo. That is originally a grime acapella that's at 140 beats per minute. So you can see if I just speed up the whole track now, everything's going to automatically sync up at the new tempo. I can make grime bust through. I can make grime bust through. Which again is really nice. A lot of teachers have been saying they've been enjoying that. You can use all the loops and the content and not have to worry about time stretching everything. And, that opens that up to be really useful. Another feature which is really good, you can see autosave here. I've just turned that on. For students, autosave defaults as on, which means whenever they're working on a track, whatever they're working on will be constantly saving in the background, like a Google Doc. So even if the kid accidentally logs out, even if they turn off their computer, their work's still going to be all there in the cloud, saved to their account, which obviously as a teacher is really cool. And I'll show you another thing. This is one that I was visiting a school this week, and one feature that they didn't realize was in here is this video tab. So you can actually load up these videos and compose along to a picture, which even though this is just in the browser in the cloud, you've got that video functionality, which is, pretty cutting edge. So if I load one of these up, you'll see what I mean. So we can load this up. Now we've got this video here. I can make grime bust through. I can make grime bust through. Which means you can do kind of film projects, composing to picture. And one thing that was nice, activity that I did this week was, say, getting students to choose one of these videos and then think about, right, well, which sort of features would fit with this video. So I think I chose the ocean one. And then we were sort of saying, right, well, what sounds would go with the waves? What sounds would go with the sunlight? okay, we could use an arpeggio to represent the movement of the water. We could use a filter in the effects to represent the kind of muffled underwater sounds. And, just brings in this whole new layer of kind of creative activity you can do. And as a teacher, you can actually import your own video files as well, which loads of teachers have been. So I've had quite a few teachers who've been converting over from Soundtrap this week, partly because of the video projects and partly because obviously this is much, much cheaper than using Soundtrap. So it's kind of saving them a load of money. And they've been kind of saying just how seamlessly they've just dropped all these features in. And what I was going to show you is, so say all the stuff we've been doing, say this has been your video lesson. What's really nice is when that's saved, if I come out of the software here, so that's saved to my account, we go back to our main menu, you've got this workspace here. And within your workspace, you've got all your student groups. So say if I show you, right, here's one of my projects, I'm going to click on a student. So here's my student Jay. I click on him and I'm actually able to see, oh, right, he's logged in 9 times. He spent 4 hours and 42 minutes on his work. Oh, here's his hip hop beat. Let's have a listen to that. I can click and load it up and it's just going to come up here and we can have a listen to it. And what's great about this is that we know firsthand, when you're working with a lot of young people, the idea of trying to keep tabs on all of their work, all the different versions of it, which computer did they save it on? Have you got it on a memory stick? All that kind of stuff. That was probably the number one reason that teachers did not enjoy teaching music tech, just keeping tabs on all of those files and all that stuff. Especially when you factor in like a school server and having to save it all onto a school system and all that hassle. With this, all of their work, it's all in the cloud. You can just click on their name and see all of their tracks. You can see here we've got comments that I've left for this student, so you can leave comments. And then when he or she log in, they'll see your comments pop up as well. So it's a really nice way to be able to feedback on their work and sort of evidence their progress as well. I'd say this has possibly been the most popular feature with teachers out in the world when I've been showing it, just because it's obviously got all the cool sounds and stuff for young people, and it will let them do what they want to do. But from a teaching point of view, this is the thing that's going to save you absolutely loads of time. So they don't have to export an MP3. You don't ever have to get them to export a track ever again, unless you need to send it to the exam board, or you want to, put it in the school newsletter or whatever. Everything can just stay in the cloud. And the great thing actually is they don't even have to share the work with you. It's just automatically shared with you. So all of that stuff around, oh, could you please share your track with me for this time on this day? Well, whenever you've got time in your schedule, click on your students, click on their work, have a listen, see what you need to see. And I think also because you've got all of this this detail around, okay, when did they last log in? How many times have they logged in? You can actually see, oh, okay, this student's never logged in. I need to have a word. Oh, this student has gone over the amount of time in the lessons, so they must be working from home. So you can without even listening to their music, you can get a real sense of, are they engaging? Are they engaging outside of school? Just before this, I just had a text from a project in Bradford who have been using YuStudio via Youth Music Project. They've given out 160 logins to all of their participants, and their group had done 240 hours worth of work on their music. And I think this is in the last couple of months. And for them to be able to go back to youth music and say, we've had 240 hours of music making. So imagine with this, you've got no limits on the number of logins. So first of all, you can give out 1,000 logins, which you can't really do any other platform. And imagine if you do give out 1,000 logins, we'll say let's say 5% of those students actually use it at home. You could quite quickly be racking up hundreds and hundreds of hours of engagement, and you can then evidence that engagement. So if your SLT want to hear, oh, how's it going? Well, you can say, oh, well, we've done this in the lessons, we've created this many pieces of work, but also we've got 300 hours of extracurricular engagement on music. It's really hard to argue with those numbers, and it's dead easy for you to see that that's happening. Apart from the fact that also it's brilliant that the kids can make music at home. And historically, we've had quite a lot of schools who'll do like a big grime project just before options evening to get everyone excited. And we've had a couple of schools said they had a 200% increase in uptake for GCSE from doing that, because loads of those young people were like, oh, wow, I love composing, I love making beats. oh, wow, sir, do I get to do this? Miss, is this going to be what we do in lessons? And they found that really worked. And this teacher was sort of saying, oh, that's brilliant. We could do, after school clubs, and we can do arts award, and we can do all these different things, to try and engage students, especially when you get that drop off in year 9 or 10, when it stops being mandatory. He was saying he has loads of students who still want to do music. And he was saying this for him is going to be a way for them to carry on engaging with music, even when maybe he's not seeing them as much. But what was really nice is we were in just some little meeting room in the school, and they had one old Dell computer, sort of some computer from the early 2000s, like no natural light, didn't even have tea and biscuits. It was like, and it's just one of those, one of those afternoons. And the little old Dell computer that we had, if you load up the software, the thing for me that I think is actually pretty revolutionary with this is, here's my track that I was just doing. Load this up. Now, say if you've got a student who wants to record their guitar over the top of it, or wants to record a rap, or they want to sing over it. Well, look how easy it is to record into the software. Well, I hit record, press play, check, 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 check. There you go. You can see it's just recorded straight in, just using the built-in mic on my laptop that I'm using for Zoom. Check, 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 check. And obviously then you can add all your effects. So it's got all the usual fun effects and stuff that you can add. To get my Beastie Boys on. What I was showing him was, look, you don't need to buy any iMacs. You don't need to buy any audio interfaces or expensive microphones. You don't need to buy any MIDI controllers. The only thing you need is some headphones from the pound shop. And, any pound shop now, you're going to be able to get headphones for £1. If you get some of those and whatever old computers you've got in your school, that's a recording studio. And it was kind of blowing his mind, because he was like, oh yeah, I can use that IT room that we're allowed to get access to, even when we're not in the music room. Or, if someone's got an old PC at their uncle's house, whatever it is, whatever kind of access they've got, they can actually record stuff that's going to sound really professional. And I think that's sort of my message at the moment. Okay, it's one thing Key Stage 4 and the students who are going to do it and are going to get their GCSE. But A, we can recruit a big group of different students using all of this new stuff. And B, we can actually enable those students to work outside of school and to record and to learn all of these sort of skills. And I think all these kind of transferable technology skills are the things that are going to set them up for an actual career doing music and all the kind of related industries. So it's just kind of, to make the point that you don't actually need to have all the big expensive studio equipment to do it. You literally log into this, which, so you can give out 1,000 of those to your kids. If they've got a little pair of headphones, that's all they're going to need. What I was going to show you as well, if we go to the homepage, in terms of the resources that are on here. So one thing I'd say to check out is VIP studio sessions here. So this is basically a set of video tutorials. And these are for either yourself or the students to learn how to create some of these new styles of music. So we've got rap beats, which is probably the most popular one at the moment. It's the kind of rap music you're going to hear on Spotify, on the radio. House music, so sort of electronic dance music, always been really popular when I've been in Lancashire doing sessions. And that's probably my favourite type of music to make. Pop, which goes a bit into writing chord progressions and working with vocals and stuff as well. Good for kind of composition stuff. Grime, so I don't know if there's any Stormzy fans up there where you're working, but this, over the last sort of 5-10 years, this has probably been our most popular thing ever. Afro beats, which is a new one. The school that I popped into this week, they had an assignment that was like, they had to do some music that sounded like sunny beaches, and they'd all been using the Afro beats tutorials to do that, which I thought was quite clever. And lo-fi hip hop, which is sort of your chilled out beats to relax to, that we did because there was a lot of stressed out young people over the pandemic, and that was to kind of have something nice and relaxed on there. And the way all of these work, if I click on the resources, you've got an overview here, and if I click on the project, you're going to see basically you can share these with the students. The software is going to load up, and you've got these videos down the side, which basically, like using YouTube tutorials, will load up.
Okay, so in these videos,
it's so embarrassing because it's just me. It's like more of me talking. But the idea with these intros is they show you a little bit of the type of track you're going to create, which was a big thing we had requested. Like
Tracksuit, that's a grand costume.
I'll play you a bit of this.
I can make grand bust through. Nat tracksuit, that's a grand costume. I can make grand bust through. Nat tracksuit, that's a grand costume. What? I can make grand bust through. Nat tracksuit, that's a grand costume. Man, what's good? Heard my man's new tune, that's good. Got a new beat from Max, that's good. Let me go in like I should, like.
So it's quite fun. You can kind of see it's sort of cool sounding beats. And you can see the whole track here that we've got in the window. This kind of arrangement of all the different layers of sounds, programming their own beats, programming their own melodies and things. The videos are going to take them step by step through that whole process. And we've got lots of teachers, again, using this to support Key Stage 4, using it to support kind of developing those skills. But also, I've got loads of teachers doing it just at the same time as the young people. So kind of treating this like a free CPD course where if you want to learn how to make some grind beats, all the resources are here. And we're going to be developing a load more CPD resources for teachers as well. But in the meantime, there's nothing to stop you over the summer break using these to make some beats and kind of learn how some of this stuff works. And so these videos take you through. First step is adding drums to kind of, as I was showing you at the beginning, building
the tempo there,
beat patterns. So
we're going to put, now that straight away is giving me a bit of a kind of grindy pattern.
And I suppose it's worth saying the whole like idea with these videos is, again, it's not like on YouTube. You know, you can go on YouTube and try and find some videos, but it's usually someone who might be like drinking a beer at the same time. There's going to be some inappropriate language in there. It's going to be about some specific bit of software and a specific version of it. And they're usually trying to show off quite a bit about how much they know about whichever thing they're using. The idea for these is they're designed for students in schools. So it's all like aimed at beginners. It's aimed at people who haven't done it loads of times before. It's all pitched in a way where it's hopefully really clear. And obviously also the great thing with this platform, they've got access at home as well. So if they want to carry on and complete all of these styles of music in their own time, we have loads of students who do that. So there's nothing to stop them going as deep into this as they want. And again, we have a lot of schools who sort of embed this at various points through Key Stage 3, so that when students get to Key Stage 4, they're kind of ready for it. It's kind of totally up to you as a teacher if you use these at all. Obviously, they're completely optional, but each one of them will go through sort of drums, adding bass, creating an arrangement, adding vocals, mixing, and just loads of kind of techniques that are going to be useful things to learn generally. And all of this stuff works via UMU. So it's added to the student's UMU account, which is what they log into. That contains the software and all the resources that they're going to see. The idea with all of this is to not only give them the tools and the access to it in school and outside of school, but also to support them with the resources. And it means that I think at secondary level, you can either be doing stuff based on what you want to do with the DAW existing projects. So, for example, the teacher I was talking to this week, he's been doing a unit on blues. He created a template of a kind of a skeleton of a blues track. And then he was sharing that template with the group and they were adding their own blues melodies on the top. So you can obviously use it to kind of create your own projects. And actually, just to show you how that works, if I go to my workspace, go to my resources, everything you've created will show up in here. So here's the lesson we've been working on, that video lesson. I can add that to a lesson, say, right, my video projects need that template, save and close, go to my lessons. I've then got, here we go, video project. I can add that to whichever group I want. So say, okay, here's my film music project. And it's that easy to create a template, share it with a group. Say I was saying you can import videos. Say you might want to import a video of some, I don't know, historic footage of Lancashire for a cross-curricular project. You could import a clip of some footage. You could share that with the group and say, right, I want everyone to compose a fanfare that goes along with this old footage. And they can all create their own versions of your template. And the thing that's nice with this stuff is you could do that same template every term or every half term, and you can just reshare that with groups as and when you want to do it. But also, in the same way as you can do this with all your own resources, you can also share our resources. So you might say, right, this term you're going to do the grime videos. Next term, we're going to do a film project. Here's some video that I want to share with you. The one after that, maybe we're doing some recording. The idea is you can use this platform to share absolutely anything you want in terms of content. but it means you've got all of their music, all their projects all kept nicely in one place online. So yeah, it's nice and safe, and there's no dealing with school IT, which for me is like one of the main things I always found that I want to avoid is having IT anywhere near my coursework, anything like that. Yeah, so hopefully that's given you a bit of an overview. There's a lot more stuff here. There's loads of curriculum resources as well in music in the modern world. So, I mean, I'll show you very quickly. These are like whole units of like listening, respond. So say, right, let's have a look at melody that tells a story. We go in here, all this documentation, and these are all whole collections of listen and respond units. Here we go, the Jaws theme, if you want to do a bit of again, this stuff, it's so deep and there's so much here. It's worth you taking a bit of time to look through it and seeing what might work for any lessons that you do. But say I was saying we could do that ocean video earlier. Well, maybe I want to share this with a group as well. And potentially we could say, right, we're going to look at this Jaws theme. We're going to think about this. We're then going to compose some music to go with this piece of video from the ocean. Suddenly you've got quite an interesting little project coming together just by combining a few of the ideas. And honestly, there's so much stuff in there. And actually this tab, Music Tech with YuStudio, this is also useful just for, basic information about how the software works. So these YuStudio, the basics videos, there's a tour here. You've kind of already just been on with me, but if you wanted to look back at anything, making your first ever beat. So there's a video there about getting started for the very first time, which might be useful for, say, if you wanted to share this with other members of staff, or if you wanted a bit of a refresher when it gets to the summer holidays. This video, advice on creating tracks using loops. In the old version of VIP, we for some bananas reason, agreed to listen to all of the tracks that students uploaded. And I must have listened to somewhere like 10,000 tracks over the course of how long we were doing it. And after listening to a really, really high number of student compositions, I realized one thing a lot of them needed some advice on is how you use loops. So I put together this video just on, creating a coherent piece of music if you're using loops. So that's one thing there. But also the how-to videos, and I won't go into it, but this is basically every single function of YuStudio pretty much with a little video. So, okay, we want to use the delay.
Okay, so we're going to add an effect to the track called delay.
So you've got, if you want to get into all the specific features and things, that's all in there as well. So yeah, obviously for me, it's really easy to go on and on about this forever. Show you how to set up students. To set up students, because obviously we work exclusively with teachers and schools, we've realized one of the big headaches is this idea of setting people up. All you need to do, go to My Student Groups, click on Create Group, and say we're going to call this, I don't know, Year 8B. Here's your group. You click on Add Students, and then you get this menu. All you need to do is click in this first square here, and you can copy and paste a spreadsheet of their names. So if you've got the spreadsheet of all the students in your class, you can paste in the whole lot all in one go. Just to show you now, if I go Max W, click Add to Students, and it's going to create all the logins here. But you can literally do that with groups of 100 students, and it will just auto-generate all of their logins. And yeah, there's nothing to stop you doing that with as many as you want. And in terms of sharing those details, it generates a login letter for every student. This kind of fancy login letter, which shows them A, the URL, B, their password, and username. And that's great. You can obviously send those out to students. But what actually a lot of teachers I talk to do, their favorite is this principal sticker sheet. So you basically can get a spreadsheet of all of their names, and it puts them all on a sticker sheet, which you can just print out at the office, and then they can stick those in their planners or whatever they're using, or just a good old fashioned spreadsheet. You just get a spreadsheet and stick it up on the wall in the classroom. Obviously, if you're doing that, that relies on students not logging in as each other and kind of shenanigans. So I think that's probably only if you trust the group. And we would probably advise technically against it, but I know in reality a lot of teachers do that. That's how easy it is to set them up. Got some developments on smartphones, so kind of watch this space, but before too long they'll be able to log in on their smartphone, start a beat, come to school, log in on the computer, add all the other layers. And the idea is what we're going for is the most accessible music software out there. All the kids in Lancashire who don't normally get access to this kind of stuff, to see this as like, oh, cool, I get to have this now. I get to have a go at this. And I think then that to then trigger this thing of like, oh, maybe like for me, I mean, I probably shouldn't mention it. I grew up just over the border in Yorkshire, but not far from Burnley. And I didn't do music in school. And part of the reason I didn't do music in school is because there was no way I was going to be allowed to do technology, to make beats. So I was really into hip hop at the time. And it was one of those where the only route into music GCSE in my school was if I said, oh, I'm going to do piano or I'm going to do classical guitar. I ended up being, really very lucky that I got a record deal by making hip hop beats. But actually, for me, part of why I want to do this and why like Lancashire and Yorkshire and places up north are kind of important to me is that I know there was a lot of young people I grew up with who would have loved something like this and probably would have done music in school, but ended up doing something completely different just because it wasn't an option. So I think especially the fact it doesn't cost them anything and it will work on any old PC. The thing I've been saying is if you've got a 50 quid budget, well, that's 50 pairs of headphones from the pound shop, 50 recording studios. And I think that's my sort of message I want to get out there, really, is like, let's see how many schools across Lancashire we can get creating an album using a budget of £1. Because I think it's totally doable. And I think it's it upsets a lot of the idea that like, oh, you have to spend X amount on this and you have to bring in a specialist to do this. And it's like, well, no, if you just press record, use the built-in mic, let the year 8s have a go at it, I think you'll be surprised what might come out the other end.